All right, that sounds fabulous. Can you see my screen okay?
I can see your screen.
Awesome. Well, my name is Teresa Law. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for Risk here at ServiceNow. And I am very excited to be here with Ashwin, our product manager for our new operational resilience management application. And we are hoping to be joined by Manoj, who is actually the CRO of RiskSpotlight, to tell us a little bit about their library app that's on the store. The reason that we're doing this, that we're all here, is because we have some new IRM applications that are now available on the ServiceNow store. Specifically, we have a whole series of webinars that we have been going through and doing for you all, live demos, lots of great questions, lots of details. We started in October with business continuity management, and then we did our new continuous authorization and monitoring application, which is focused on NIST RMF. Then in November, we went ahead and we did our advanced risk assessments, and we did our policy and compliance application and our new enhancements for that, and lots of great enhancements for vendor risk management. And now in December, we did our another new application, which is our regulatory change management application. And today, we're going to be looking at operational resilience. Following that, so don't go away, we're going to have a great demo on our the new application on the store, RiskSpotlight OpRisk Library. So all in all, we have 7 webinars that we've been doing. All of this is on the Ask the Expert channel. I encourage everyone to go out there, take a look. You can ask questions. It's also got on the community link. Ask questions there. We're happy to engage with you. And the one thing we want to make sure of in this webinar that we've got here for the next 50 minutes is that you all ask questions. So let's make this engaging. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ashwin, who is going to then start taking us through the new operational resilience management application. So Ashwin, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, your screen, it looks great.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today's session on operational resilience. I'll take you by the operational resilience overview of ServiceNow's latest offering. And then Manoj will help us understand the RiskSpotlight offering on the ServiceNow store as well. So just give me a second. All right. So operational resilience is one of the applications that we have released recently last month in the store. It's generally available for all our customers. You should be able to download and start using that. As part of today's agenda, first, we are going to look at what operational resilience is, how ServiceNow envisions the solution. And then we can look at the demo of the operational resilience application. If there are any questions, please put it on the chat, and we will take it as we move on. So operational resilience is the ability for any organization to recover from an adverse event, right? Disruptions are inevitable, but if there are these disruptions that are happening, operational resilience defines how fast and easily that you can get back to business as usual and keep moving forward. This is how we at ServiceNow are looking at operational resilience. We define and envision operational resilience as the ability of an organization to continue to serve its customers, deliver the critical products and services to the end customers, and ensure the health and safety and productivity of their workforce during any of these adverse events. And how they do it is by anticipating these events, preventing these events, recovering from these events in case they happen, and then adapting from all of these exercises that we have been doing across the different phases. So as I said, as a firm, you are concerned about the products and services, the delivery of them continuously, even during an situation like the ongoing pandemic. It could be a fire outbreak, it could be earthquake, any of these disruptions, right? You want to ensure your customers are satisfied, they're getting served, and you want to ensure your workforce is safe, and they are productive. The way we are tracking this is by 5 pillars: the people who support the delivery of these services, the technology that comes together to delivery of the services. With all the digitalization of the businesses going around the world, it becomes really important that we emphasize on technology resilience as well. Then comes the facilities. As we reopen, for example, after the pandemic for regular operations, the facility managers have to ensure compliance to local regulations, ensure there are enough of safety measures implemented in the facilities, and there is enough of resilience planned around the facilities itself and the equipments to ensure the delivery of critical services to the end consumers. Same thing with the globalization that's going on. Businesses are dependent on each other more deeper and deeper. So the suppliers or the vendors that we depend on also have to be resilient. We have to be insulating our business for any supplier outage. Because of a supplier outage, we should not be impacted, and it should not block our delivery of critical services to our end users or the consumers. And finally, the processes. These are the processes that interlink the different pillars and get them together in order to deliver these critical products and services to our customers. As I said, this is done via 4 different phases. Let's look at what those are in a bit more detail. So, operational resilience is not a siloed function, or it's not a separate department in an organization or a bank, right? It has to be embedded in the day-to-day workflows or activities in the bank. Every department and every function has to take this into their culture and implement them. It can be your IT workflows, it can be employee workflows, customer workflows. Those are built on top of ServiceNow's platform, or it could be any custom workflows that are enabling you to get your day-to-day activities completed. So operational resilience resides in all of these different things. It's not siloed. It's all coming together in order to support the delivery of the important or critical services to your end consumers. So we talked about 4 phases. This is how we have split the different aspects or activities of operational resilience. The first one is anticipate, where you would be able to inventory all your critical services. For example, there could be multiple services a bank is providing, right? Let's say mortgages is one of the services that the bank is providing. If you ask the customers, is it very critical for you? Probably not as much, because if you can't get that service from one of the banks, maybe you will go to another bank and get the same service from the different bank. But let's say, for example, you are in the line of an grocery store, you're going to pay the bill, and when you reach the counter, your debit card doesn't work, and that's the only one that you have because of certain IT outages of that bank, right? So that becomes a critical service, that is payment services and transactions that the customers can do. So you can inventory all of these services in the CMDB, the service catalog of ServiceNow, and then classify them as which ones are critical based on the impact to the customers, the impact to the organization or the bank itself, and then the impact to the market integrity and economy, right? So you'd be able to do that. Once you have done the inventory of these services, the next thing is to map the dependencies. This is called the service mapping in some of the guidelines and white papers that have been published by the regulators, right? So you'd be able to inventory the different products that you're delivering, the customers, the services, etc., and then map them to the internal processes, people, departments, functions, the vendors and suppliers, and facilities, and so on. We will see that in the demo. The next is to analyze the risks around these supporting elements, right? So it can be people-related risk, it can be technology-related risk, or any of them. Understand the risk that is around them using our advanced risk assessment capability. This is part of our operational risk management capability. We will see that as well. The next thing is you can identify the recovery objectives for these different things, right? In case they go down, how far should we recover them? That's part of your anticipate phase. The next one is the prevent phase. Based on the risk assessments that you have done, you can establish and implement the controls to mitigate those risks. And similarly, you would be able to come up with business continuity strategies, implement the strategies, and document them as plans. and test them as well and keep monitoring the performance of these plans. Then comes the respond and recover phase. In this case, we are assuming that the event has happened. Of course, as the white papers and guidelines say, these disruptions are inevitable. They will happen at some point in time, and operational resilience is about how well are you prepared to tackle those. So using our incident response product and the business continuity product, we have the crisis management capability and emergency communications that can be used to respond quickly and recover from these adverse events that may hit you. Finally, the adapt part, there are capabilities for you to perform root cause analysis, analyze the whole thing, the trends, understand the learnings, and then bake it into the operational resilience as a whole. You can even strengthen the controls, implement new controls, and so on, so forth. So these are tracking the learnings from all of the different aspects so far and keep on continuously improving the operational resilience program. Let's look at this one slide, and then we will move into the demo directly. So this is the structure. This is exactly the data model as well that we have built in the product. So you'll be able to see that these are the outcomes that we call. Those are the critical services and products that the bank or the firm wants to deliver to the end consumers. You can have an inventory of these. You can tier them into critical, high, medium, low, and different scales of that kind, so that you have an idea of which ones are really critical for the firm based on different factors. We will see that. And then you can link them to the internal activities and processes that are followed in order to deliver these critical services. In this case, I'm talking about a payment service, which is kind of a critical service for our end consumers. But in order to execute these activities and carry out these business processes, we are dependent on certain elements, and we call them the pillars. So there is a technology pillar, there's a people pillar, there's facilities and suppliers. In the conventional business continuity management, these were looked upon as silos, and they had their own business continuity plans. And one of the key differentiators in operational resilience is to look at this from a top-down and holistic view. We want to exercise these plans together, do the risk assessments, and bring everything together. So the first thing is technology pillar. The user persona that you are looking at here is the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, or the Chief Information Security Officer. When it comes to operational resilience, their team's goal is to ensure the technology that is needed to carry out these business processes, let's say, for example, an application, a web application that's needed in order to key in critical data of the customer who wants the payment service and store it in the DB, right? So that has to be available at all the point in time, and it has to be secured as well. The data that's stored in it cannot be compromised. Then comes the people pillar. Of course, this is being headed by the HR officer of the chief HR officer and their team. The goal is to ensure the well-being of people, health and safety, and the productivity of different people. Like in this current situation, everybody is in isolation, everybody is working from their home offices. What are the things that they need to be productive? All of these has to be taken care of. Then comes the facilities. The facility managers have to ensure safety and equipments that are available in each facility. They comply with the local regulations in order to open the businesses in phases. And then comes the suppliers. Of course, this is your procurement team and vendor management team who want to insulate the operations, day-to-day operations from supplier outages. That's their goal when it comes to this. So how do we do this? We have to inventory all of these data. First of all, the technology team is going to inventory all the assets in our CMDB. We have an auto discovery capability. You can go through your IT infrastructure, understand what are the different servers, what are the different databases, the complete IT infrastructure that's needed for an application to work successfully. That can be documented and inventoried here. And that is related to the business process, how they support them. The next is the employee data. We capture the employee data and what locations they are working out of, which are their physical addresses, and so on, so forth. The facilities, of course, where these facilities are, where are our operations getting carried out from, what are the equipments in each one of these facilities, and then you can track that there. Then comes the suppliers, which are the vendor details. What are the services we get from them? What are their performance currently? Once we have this inventory done and the mappings done, the next thing is you can set tolerances for the services based on different factors. There are three parameters that you can set this on. One is the timeline, one is the volume, and the third one is the data integrity. So based on that, you would be able to do scenario analysis. We will see that what that is in a couple of minutes. And then you can identify the risks around each of this pillar, right? There could be technology risks, people related risks, facility related risks, and suppliers, and so on, so forth. Once the anticipate phase is done, the next one is the prevent phase, where based on the risk assessments you have done for each pillar, you can implement the controls correspondingly, right? It could be data encryption, it could be ensuring certain policies are in place for people related risks, facility related risks, and suppliers, etc. So you want to avoid concentration of suppliers in one particular geography, and so on and so forth. You can also look at implementing the business continuity strategies and testing those plans as part of the prevent phase. Then comes the recover, where you are looking at the ongoing incidents, recovering from them, looking at the outages, recovering from them. You can start activate business continuity plans, send out emergency communications, and come out of that situation. And finally, adapt. We discussed this. You can do root cause analysis and make recommendations on how to strengthen the operational resilience program. All right. So this was a brief overview of the application itself. Now I would like to walk you guys by the demo. All right. So I've logged into the application as an administrator just to avoid logging out and in frequently. So this person has access to almost all the capabilities of the tool. What you're looking at here is the business owner's view or the chief operating officer's view, right? This could be a general manager who's heading a business unit, or a chief operating officer heading the entire organization. So as soon as I log in, I'll be able to see me and my team are delivering 12 critical services to our end consumers, right? Out of these 12 critical services that we deliver today, there is one that is under outage. That's completely under outage. I can drill deeper into any of these numbers that you see here from our dashboards and look at who's working on this outage and follow up as needed, right? The next one is, this is a currently degraded service. This is not completely out, but it is not performing the 100% that it usually should have been. So right at the top, you would see that these are the ongoing stuff. These are the current issues that needs my attention, right? That's the first thing that we start with. Again, this comes from our CMDB. That is our service catalog, the outages and the degradations that are happening right now. These are open stuff. The next is the potential candidates that can become an outage soon, if not, if attention is not provided towards them. So we are looking at the services with high risks next, right? These are the number of services that have risks identified at one of the supporting pillars. For example, in this case, there's a people pillar. There are 5 high risks or high residual risks that are there, that are identified, assessed, and reported into the system. That is in our advanced risk management system. So we have taken a risk-driven approach for operational resilience here. It's not just a checkbox exercise like a compliance solution where you just say, yeah, these are the things that are there. So if you already have an operational risk management practice, there are risk assessments being done by the operational risk management managers. We just directly pull in that information real time for this dashboarding. Only thing is we categorize them into different pillars. That happens in operational resilience product, and it is presented in terms of how it bubbles up to the service level at the top level, right? So you can see there are 5 risks here. It could be people not taking the security training, right? That could be a people risk that's there. There's not enough of social distancing being maintained. There could be some outages that are expected in a facility. That's the facility related risk. There could be vendor related risk like a concentration risk. There could be technology risk like loss of confidential data, and so on and so forth. So these are the different pillars that we ship with. This is by default. When you turn on the product, then you would get these 4 pillars, which is in line with the white paper and guidelines provided by the um, Bank of England, FCA, and PRA, right? But this can also be configured to extension, right? What I mean by that is, if you would like to, for example, split this technology pillar into more details, right? You want to see the IT infrastructure related stuff separately and data related stuff separately, or vital records related stuff separately. You can very well go ahead and configure that. We will look at how to configure these at the end. What would typically happen is one more bar will show up within this chart. In that ways, we have made it really flexible for you to go and define these different pillars, and the reporting and dashboards will redraw itself to support your needs. So that was coming from our advanced risk assessment capability. The next one is from our policy and compliance capability. This is the control test and the compliance percentages. So there are certain services which have been supported by different elements, people, facilities, suppliers, and technology, but the controls related to them are failing currently. How many of them are there which are failing? This also means there are vulnerabilities in these areas. Failing controls are nothing but weaknesses in the system, and thus this is also a potential candidate, and it can move from failed controls to an actual outage soon, if we don't take actions as soon as possible, right? So that's the reason this is also out here. It could be, for example, data encryption is not done on some of our databases, which have really critical, personally identifiable information, let's say, right? And the service is dependent on that. And if there are problems because of this, then that particular service or a couple of services that are using the same database will move into an outage. So we want to avoid that. And for that reason, you need to get an insight of this. And you can click into it at any point. I will just use this for a minute. Let us just see. This is the underlying data that comes from our control tests, right? You'd be able to see digital banking is one of the services out of that 4 that we saw. And there are some of these controls that are non-compliant, right? We roll it up. The way we roll it up is we look at the controls which are non-compliant. We roll it up to what are the servers that they are related to, and what is this item part of which pillar. In this case, we defined it as a technology pillar, right? So that's why you're seeing this. And this technology item comes together to support a particular process or an internal activity of the bank, and that activity helps in delivering and final service to the end consumer. And that's how we have bubbled it up all the way. And that's why you would see the dashboards in terms of number of services that have failed controls and number of services that have failed controls across each pillar. Now, if you're thinking, why is this number not matching these? It's because one service can be part of multiple of these pillars. The same service can have control failures around any of these. We just roll it up as a distinct or unique values of services up here as a summary. Now, there are 50 critical elements that comes together to support these 12 services. And this data comes from our business continuity management application. Some of these supporting elements don't have an continuity plan or an disaster recovery plan when it comes to technology assets, meaning I don't have a document that my team can follow to recover these elements in case that they go down. And the problem here is these elements are critical and they come together to support one or more of these critical services. So that means that it's going to be a business impact. So that becomes critical. The user can click on any of this, see who owns this facility, follow up with that facility manager to come up with a business continuity strategy, implement it, and document it. Then comes the impact threshold breaches. This is purely driven within operational resilience management. Based on the impact thresholds that you have established for your services, you can keep injecting multiple scenarios and see at what point in time we breach the set impact thresholds. And accordingly, you can report or recommend actions via our issue management capability. So there are issues that have been reported, which were called out as P1 issues, and it had a date around that by when it should be resolved. But currently, it is overdue, right? So we want to ensure those issues are taken to a closure. So you can drill deeper into the details, follow up, and get that done as well. So these are the potential candidates that can move to an actual outage. This was the second half of the dashboard. Now, the last part of this first dashboard is the place where we do the recommendations, right? The application recommends based on the risk assessments that are going on and the control failures that have happened, which ones or where do you want to start fixing things from, right? So for example, there is a control here that says return to work policy. Return to work policy is being documented, it's been there, but it's not working as expected. It's not operational as expected, right? So that for that reason, that control is failing, or the controls related to that policies are failing. And then let's say this is impacting 5 different facilities, right? Let's say all of them are in the US, for example. Now, if I fix this one particular control, because they are related to 5 facilities, and the operations in these 5 facilities cater to 5 different services, right? So this is impacting 5 different services. The top level thing is the service again, from where we want to look at a top-down approach. So if I fix these things, this one control, then I would be able to save these 5 different services. That's the maximum number of the maximum benefit that I can get, kind of a bang for the buck, right? So that's this chart. Very similar to this, the risks as well. If you look at one of the risks, let's say, for example, loss of data integrity or a loss of confidential data, let's say, this particular risk is impacting these many assets. And because those many assets are used by, let's say, 4 services, this is like one of the things that I might probably want to start looking at and fixing. Ideally, this will be sorted with the highest number of impacted services at the top and gradually decreases. That is the first chart that you can look at. This is an overall view around the whole organization or a particular business unit according to whoever logs in. The dashboards are tailored for their view. All right, now the next one is the service details. This is pretty much the same data, but a double click view of it, right? I can go ahead and select one particular service or multiple of them, and I can say, I want to see all of those which are related to one service which is being served by these many internal activities or processes, and then what are the data around it. So this is slicing and dicing of the underlying data. The operational resilience managers, for example, can go ahead and look at each service, get more details around them, and then start taking actions around those. So this is one of the dashboards as well. Now we looked at the business dashboards, right? So these were for the business unit heads and general managers, etc. The next one is the chief information officer or the chief information security officer and their team. So since we are looking at one particular pillar, we have gone deeper into it. You would start seeing, I've logged in, let's say I have logged in as a chief information officer. I can see there are 16 critical assets or 16 assets me and my team are maintaining, which are supporting 4 business services, right? So these are the critical things that we are maintaining today. And because of this, we are supporting these 4 services. And out of these 16, if there are any open major incidents, this comes from our incident management system. These are all live data that is sourced from these different applications. The advantage of being on a single platform like ServiceNow, right? You can pull this information directly from there. You don't have to, for example, ask someone like a survey, do you have any open incidents, right? Typically, the capabilities out there today do that. They just send out a questionnaire to people asking, do you have open incidents? Do you have high risk? Do you have controls failures, etc., etc.? But that is not real time. Probably that would let you do your analysis once in a quarter, maybe. But for all that you know, within the next quarter, you would have multiple outages and you're already in a bad situation. So these dashboards enable you to track this directly from the source of these different areas, right? So you would be able to get a real-time view. All that you need to do is, if these programs are already running in your organization, this will come up automatically here. Same thing, if you have the business continuity management capability, you can see how many of them don't have plans. Even if they have plans, how many of them have failed the latest exercise, meaning it's as good as not having the plan. You want to follow up and get them updated. You can see how many assets are under risk. These are the technology risks, how many are high, medium, and low. The controls, of course, how many are compliant, how many are not, how many are yet to be tested. And similarly, the open issues, right? How many are critical, high, medium, low, according to the priority. These are the problem areas or the areas which need your attention. We have designed these dashboards in a similar pattern that you'd have seen in the first place, right? So some of them are ongoing stuff, and then these are the things that need your attention, and this is the recommendation, right? So you can see multi-factor authentication as a control. If I fix this, these many impacted assets can be safeguarded. And so these are rolling up into the services. So we are not going to show the data around the entire universe of our CMDB. There can be thousands of, tens of thousands of IT assets in the system, but we are picking up only those that are directly linked to the services through processes, and we bubble up only the risk controls and the other details around them. So we can cut down on the noise, and then you can focus on what is really important from an operational resilience point of view. Same thing with risks, the issues, and then if we have our vulnerability response capability, you would get the data as well populated from the vulnerabilities that are there and identified in that component. Next comes facilities. Very similar view to CIOs, but this is being catered to the facility managers. Same pattern. These are the current outages. You can see what things need your attention, but these are filtered by the pillar. These are facility related risks, facility related controls and issues, and then the recommendations to fix stuff. You can see the people dashboard. This is for the HR officer and their team. These are very specific to organizations and functions in your organization, right? In your firm. Basically, these are people related risks, controls, and issues. And finally, the suppliers. So these are the vendor related information. There are 23 vendors that we are engaging with currently. They support these many. And then what are the risks, controls, and issues around them. So this was a very quick overview of the operational resilience capability that we just released recently. And then let me just walk you by very quickly how to get this configured, how easy it is to configure these. So basically, you can see there are some pillars that we defined, right? For example, I have not used this, but you can add one more. For example, here, I can just go in. I can say this is a new pillar that I want to track in my dashboards. This is called data, or let's say, for example, vital records, right? And I can save this. Once I have decided what are the things that I need to track, I can go back to what we call as entity types and then relate what should be part of that vital records. For example, I can create a new one, but I'm not going to do that. We'll just look at an existing stuff and see what goes in to get that done. So I can create what are the things that needs to be considered as suppliers. I can go and add a filter saying it has to be picked up from a particular table. These are the filtering conditions. And if all of this matches, they qualify to be a supplier, and the risks around them, controls around them, business continuity plans around them, and so on and so forth will be picked up. And you will start seeing the new pillar that you want to create with all the details getting populated in the dashboards here, right? So it's as easy as that. You can do that. And if you have these operations or programs already running, one is your risk management, one is your compliance management, the other is business continuity, and the rest of the issue management, vulnerability response, incidents, and outages. If these are getting tracked in different applications, we pull them in real time, and these dashboards are drawn, and you can start tracking those. So that was a quick overview. And with that, I will hand it over to Manoj to take us through the RiskSpotlight capabilities.
Excellent. Thank you, Ashwin. As we're getting Manoj set up here, I just wanted to reiterate that Manoj is the CRO for RiskSpotlight. RiskSpotlight is a new application that we have on the ServiceNow store. Stay tuned at the very end. We'll give you some links to be able to get out there and see the information. But we're very excited to have RiskSpotlight here, and we're really interested in seeing what they've got there that actually pertains quite closely to Ashwin, what you've been talking about around operational risks.
Thank you. Yeah, Manoj, can you start sharing your screen?
Yes, I am getting a message. You cannot start while other participant is sharing.
Okay, I'll just close this.
Okay, perfect. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction, Teresa. So, and thank you for that overview, Ashwin, of the operational resilience solution. So I'm going to talk about a new app which we have made available on the ServiceNow store, which is called the RiskSpotlight OpRisk Library tab. As we've been talking about operational resilience, in order to achieve operational resilience, we need to work on making sure our risk management is effective, which is what Ashwin was referring to, that operational resilience is not something you do, but it's an outcome of effective risk management. But for risk management to be effective, what you need is you need some high quality content around your risks and controls and KRIs, and particularly where that content is aligned with industry best practices. And that's what the new application provides from RiskSpotlight, where that's what the application is trying to address, where we are trying to provide high quality operational risk content to ServiceNow GRC customers, which is aligned with industry best practices. That's what the page looks like on the ServiceNow store. And once you download the app, what you will get is you will get access to 126 operational risks that are relevant for any financial services organization anywhere in the world. So it's not specific to, it's not like a regulatory content which is specific to a particular geography, but we're focusing more on the risk management content which stays consistent across multiple geographies. So based on our research, we identified 126 operational risks which need to be managed by a financial services organization. And for each of the 126 risks, we then went and researched and documented the causes, the controls you need, the key risk indicators, and then the financial, reputational, and business impacts for each of those 126 risks. And the way you can use the content is that if you are in the process of creating a library of operational risks or controls or KRIs in your organization, then that's where the app can allow you to fast track that process. So instead of doing that in 6 months, you may be able to do that in 1 or 2 months. So the app can allow you to fast track, so you quickly get access to that content, so you can start applying that content in your day-to-day risk management. And the content, because it's aligned with best practices, it also then gives you that extra assurance that if you utilize the content, the risk management framework you implement is also then aligned with industry best practices. And if you already have a library in place, then organizations also use a library to see if there are any gaps around certain type of controls or certain type of key risk indicators. So that's also another usage of how you can utilize the app. In terms of the risk categories, so here are the different risk categories which are covered across those 126 risks. And then I've highlighted the ones where the categories are relevant for operational resilience with this flag called OR. So one of the risk categories we provide is business process execution failure. So of course, that's a very key part of operational resilience. Then we have the next risk category is damage to tangible, intangible assets. So that's where if the risks associated with terrorist attack, natural disaster, those sort of risks are included in this category. Of course, then it's relevant for operational resilience. Then you have employment practices and workplace safety. So that's where things like COVID-19 pandemic, any employee health and safety related incidents and risks would be covered in that particular category. So again, from a COVID perspective, you're very relevant. Then you have external theft and fraud. So this is where things like data breach would be covered, where external parties steal data from an organization. So also very important part of operational resilience. Internal theft and fraud. So if that data breach was caused by internal employees, then that's an example of the risk which would be covered in the internal theft and fraud category. The next one is improper business practices. So this is where, yeah, the salespeople intentionally missell products and services to the customers. So that normally gets categorized into conduct risk part of risk management. So the risks in that category may not be that relevant from an operational resilience perspective. Then we have the regulatory and compliance. So that's where we have all the risks associated with your submitting reports to your regulators. So risks in that category wouldn't necessarily be covered as part of operational resilience. But then we have technology failures and damages. So that's where, yeah, if IT systems going down due to a hardware failure or cyber attack, then those sort of risks are covered in the technology failures and damages category. And the last one is vendor failures and damages. So this is where, yeah, if a vendor breaks down due to which you're not able to provide certain services to your customers, then this would be covered as part of operational resilience. So you can see that there is a lot of content in this library, which is very relevant from an operational resilience perspective. And on this slide, you get an idea of the volume of the content we provide as part of the app. So I talked about the 126 risks. There are 213 causes mapped to those 126 risks. There are 728 controls for those 126 risks. And similarly, key risk indicators, 1,766, and financial, reputational, and business impacts collectively make up 79 impacts as part of the library. So that gives you an idea of the volume of content you would get as part of the app. And you will see on the App Store that the app is free, but it requires you to purchase the content license directly from RiskSpotlight. And then I've listed the price here of $9,990. If you want that content, then you can get in touch directly. Once we receive the payment, then we will allow you to then download that app from the App Store, and all the content then will be available as part of downloading that app.
So Manoj, we do have a question here really quick. Causes in ServiceNow terminology are control objectives, correct?
So I have a table later. So let me show you the mapping.
Go ahead and we can wait.
Yeah. Yeah, so here is the mapping. We can talk about that now. Yeah, so the risks we have equates to risk statement in the GRC app. Causes is causes. Controls go into control objectives. Oh, sorry about that. And then KRIs will go into indicator templates, and those impacts we have, they map into the consequences of the GRC app.
Okay, perfect.
So that's where, yeah, we do allow functionality that the content then from the app can be copied. So let me just do a quick preview of the app so you can get a sense of what is included in the app, and then I'll hand over to Teresa. So here I am logged into ServiceNow. So once you've downloaded the app, you can type ORL for OpRisk Library, and that's where you'll be able to see these tables. So if I click on all ORL risks, then you will be able to see all the 126 risks here. And then if I was to take, let's say, the ATM fraud risk, I can right mouse click on summary, and I can see a quick summary view of all the content associated with the ATM fraud risk. So you can see the different causes, the impacts, you can see the 48 controls which are associated with that particular ATM fraud risk. And then you can also click on a particular risk to just see all the details associated with one given risk. So I've drilled down here in ATM fraud risk. So you are then able to see more details around the causes, impacts, controls, and key risk indicators. And then, of course, you can open any of those data to see more details. So in this case, I've opened this one control where you're able to see the title and the descriptions. And then also, what are the other risks that control is mitigating. Then one of the things customers typically do when they utilize the content is that they first go and determine which of these 126 risks are relevant for their organization. Because if you are an insurance company, then risks like ATM fraud may not be relevant for you. Similarly, if you're a retail bank, then some of the risks around insurance fraud may not be relevant for you. So in the application, we've given a functionality for you to be able to say whether a certain risk or control or KRI is relevant for your organization or not. So you can just right mouse click and then mark those content as relevant. And then this is relevant flag will then allow you to easily see what are the different content in each of the risks and causes and controls where you've already marked as relevant. And then you can also right mouse click and copy to GRC. So that's where when you do that, then that functionality will copy all the data from our tables into the relevant GRC tables, which I had highlighted earlier. So that copy functionality will automatically then take all the content from the application table into the right tables in GRC. So all that data is then populated there, and then you can start utilizing that data for your risk management purposes.
So Manoj, another question for you. Does the RiskSpotlight library come layered in level 1, level 2, level N+1 risk taxonomy?
So we do have, a categorization. There are 2 levels of categorizations. So if I click on filter, then we have categorized them by the Basel risk category level 1 and 2, which is commonly used. But we also have our operational risk level 1 and 2. But we've created those as fields. So if I want to just see content related to external theft and fraud, then I can sort of type that and click on run, and then it'll only show me the risks related in that particular category. So yes, there are 2 levels of categories around the content.
Perfect. Is it possible to add additional levels, or are those 2 pretty well hard-coded there?
So, I mean, once the customers download the app, then this content belongs to the customer, so they can make whatever changes. So if they want to change, some of the titles, they want to change some of the description, because that's another tailoring customers will need to do, so that the language which is used, reflects the risk language used in the organization. So of course, customers can then change those level 1s. They can add more if it's suitable for the risk framework in their organization.
Awesome. There's a question here. Is it possible to see an example of the copy to GRC feature to see how it looks in the tables? I'm not sure we can do that right now, but
so it will be to those respective tables. So I can show sort of one quick one where if I click on control, so if I see, okay, so this one, process to review improper business practices, so I can see copy to GRC, a flag is false. So I can just right mouse click and click on copy to GRC for that particular control. And you'll see on the top, you get this message, all records inserted in control objectives. And then you can just open the control objectives table, and you will be able to then see that record would have been added in that. So if I sort of filter for anything which was created today, so if I do created, so created today. Okay, so that's already here. So click on run, and then that's the control which we just added. So I can then click on that particular control. So now it's part of the, if it's part of the GRC control objective table, where I can open that, and we then copy the title of the control, we copy the description of the control, and then there are certain other attributes also which you can configure now, because this is what customers would configure on their side. So at least the title and description we can definitely copy from our library very easily into the control objective. But there are certain other attributes which also then can be configured on the control objective, and everything else works in a similar way, where you can then go and look for the content. So once you do the copy to GRC, then depending on what you have copied, you will be able to find that content in the respective tables highlighted here.
And it took about 3 seconds, which is wonderful.
Okay. No, so that's all I had. So in summary, it's fast tracking that if you want good quality content, because that's always a struggle in operational risk and operational resilience project, then that's what we are helping this app is to fast track you to get to a good quality content, so you can get on with managing your risks and in an as effective way as possible. So that's from me, Teresa. I'll hand over back to you. I'll stop the sharing.
Fantastic. Let me just grab your screen really quick. This is great. Thank you so much, Manoj. Thank you so much, Ashwin. I think this was awesome. Our community is down, so unfortunately, a lot of people could not join us today, but this recording is going to be on the Ask the Experts playlist. So it will be there for anybody that wants to go view it later.
Yeah, we are back up. The community is back up. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wonderful. So please, visit us on servicenow.com.risk, or you can actually look at the application that Manoj was talking about on the ServiceNow store. Please, engage with us on our community and watch the other Ask the Experts. Let me just see if we have any questions that have come in since the community came back up. I don't see any. So I want to just say thank you very much to Manoj, to Ashwin, and to all of our attendees. And if you have any questions, please reach out.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a happy holidays.
Yep. Happy holidays.